He said, let there be light, trees, let there be oceans, seas, let there be everything you need. And there were.
All right. This is Emery Barber of Adobe Creative Media. Just making a few quick adjustments here. I want to welcome you this morning to Be Creative Academy, where today we're going to be focusing on design dimensions. For the next few moments, I will be updating you on details that you can utilize to enhance your flyers, your social media, your digital marketing collateral by utilizing PowerPoint, something that many that would often go to things like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, things that you can do right in PowerPoint, something that's right within your reach that many people were unaware that you can utilize, want to now bring to you as we engage this Be Creative moment. I'm Emery Barber again of EB Creative Media, and we just finished a Be Creative Challenge back in October. We'll be doing another one this month. And we are deliberate about trying to assist others, encourage others, that there's no more excuses, reasons that we thought that we had before not to do the things that we've always wanted to do. The tools are right within our reach. And we often use the scriptural reference that Moses had when God had called him to go and liberate the people of Israel. And as they were about to do so, as he was about to do so, he's looking for the tools that he thinks that he needs. And they were right within his reach. They were right in his hands. And so with that said, we're going to continue with that effort, to go and share these details so that others might be able to come into fruition of the knowledge as well. So as you enter in, we're going to invite you to please give permission to StreamYard so that we'll be able to see any questions or comments that you have. And we're also going to log on to Facebook so that we should be able to see comments that are given there as well. So we're going to open that up, and we are going to ask you to get your PowerPoint ready. Open up your PowerPoint software, pull up your seat, and let's get started. Last week, we had an opportunity to go into great detail as relates to font selection, adding certain effects, spatial effects, text effects. And as we continue this morning, I'm getting to the software that we were using, PowerPoint. We're using PowerPoint 2016. Want to make sure that we understand that there is a distinct difference between utilizing PowerPoint on your desktop, like PowerPoint 2016, for instance, and utilizing PowerPoint 365, which is part of the Microsoft suite. One is downloaded to your computer. You can usually buy that in a Best Buy or Walmart or Target or something like that, or even online with Amazon, and then download it. You can go directly to Microsoft, download it to your computer. That's different from Office 365. Office 365 takes those same Microsoft products and it has truncated the software so that it can be used in a very convenient way on the cloud. And by doing such, as they've truncated it, yes, naturally that means that they've lost some of the features that would be able to be utilized in PowerPoint. And so what I'm sharing with you, the feature-rich example of this particular software can be found in the software that you download. Wanted to be sure that we recognize that, because if you're utilizing the 365, some of the things that I'll mention, you won't have that same option. Let me give you an example. Last week, we saved the PowerPoint in many different versions. So we saw the difference between saving something as a JPEG, saving something as a PNG file. But because we later added some animation to the actual file, we saw that we could save it as, for instance, a PowerPoint show. We saw that we could also save it as a WMV file, which is a Windows Media Video file. But we could also save it in a very common format known as MP4. And the significance of that is that as we do so, we can then post that on YouTube, Twitter. It's a video file. It's one of the most common video files, very much like a MOV file. And so you can do, in other words, you can create videos right within PowerPoint. But in the 365 version, you're limited. I don't believe that you can actually save it as an MP4 file. That's not the option. So you would have to save it in another format if you wanted it in MP4 and then convert it into the MP4 format. And so those are the differences there, some of the differences. And then as we get ready, I'm still trying to give a little bit of time for those who have registered to enter into the session. And then we're going to get started. Just to share a little bit about me, mine is Emery Barber. I creative design by virtue of practice or constant for more than 15 years. And naturally, yes, over 15 years, the industry and the technology has morphed, has advanced. And I would like to think that my ear is to the ground as relates to utilizing various software. And that's why I bring this advantage to you. There are many who make excuses as to why they have not started, why they have not begun to utilize some of the gifts, thoughts, ideas that they have in their minds, that they have in their dreams and visions, because they don't have the money, because they don't have the right tools, because they don't have the know-how. And as education is rapidly also changing and advancing, we find that there are opportunities like this one where we can tap into educational opportunities to do what we need to do, learn what we need to learn. And this is one of them. And so I've been doing this actually for several years in different capacities. I'm also a pastor. I've been a pastor for several years as well, more than 15 years, and in ministry. And my gift and my calling and my tool of preference as relates to teaching has been the technological process through things like video conference and teaching utilizing presentations and designing the images that would be needed to do such. And so used software such as Corel Draw, if you're familiar with that software from many years ago, the Creative Suite of Adobe, regarding Illustrator and Premiere and Photoshop, and have helped, I would say, thousands of clients in varying areas to enhance their digital marketing collateral, from PowerPoint presentations to building wraps, to car wraps, to website design, and the like, T-shirts, mugs, those types of things. And so I feel somewhat qualified to come and to share with you in this particular area. And so as we do so today, we are going to pick back up where we left off last week. Let's see. Let's see who we have on just yet. Okay, we're going to go to by his creative design. And we're going to start anew. What I'd like to do, I'd like to start off by getting some ideas of what it is that you feel that you want to learn. How would you be able to envision utilizing various software to your advantage? And so let's talk about that. Let's look for, I want to look for some comments. I want you to know this is interactive, and as there are things that come to your mind, what are some of the things that you've been wanting to do? What have there been T-shirts perhaps that you wanted to make, a website design? Maybe you've seen something on the internet that you want to be able to do. What are some of those things? And then I want to take the privilege to actually show you how to then do that. Okay, looking for our last. Okay, so I'm going to open up my screen. For instance, if you look at my screen now, you'll see that, and I talked about this last week, there's certain elements sometimes that you'll utilize as peripherals in a different environment. So what I did is I created the header and the lower thirds footer of this particular image, like you should see right here, right there, EBCM live stream, and the actual footer here in the lower thirds, and then what you see above as well. We created those elements deliberately in PowerPoint so that we can share about some of the design dimensions that are available to you, even as you come and utilize them online. And so we created these elements, and if you look at them, you can almost envision just about how to make them. It's taking a series of shapes, utilizing those shapes, putting a background in it, and we're going to repeat that in one of our sessions as well. And just having an idea of the dimension that it should be. And sometimes when you may not even know which dimension to utilize or what dimensions to utilize, you can copy a sample of that you might see on screen, bring it into, or I should say import it into PowerPoint or open it in PowerPoint, and then be able to make yours based on that particular model. So let me open up here. Okay. So having a few technical difficulties as I'm trying to open this up right now. But that's okay. We're going to proceed. Bear with me. Okay. So I'm going to start with what I have here while I'm having some challenges, and we will maximize the moment. Because remember, this is a No Excuses series. And in the No Excuses series, we want to be deliberate to share with you that no matter what challenges come up, we have to be ready, willing, and able to pivot. Ready, willing, and able to pivot. Okay, so I'm going to take my application window and share that. And as I share that, let's open that up to two screens here. Okay. And we'll open this up. Okay. So in a short measure, you should be able to see my screen. All right. Now, as we open this up, we are, again, utilizing PowerPoint. I want to make that clear. We're utilizing PowerPoint. And as we utilize PowerPoint, what we're going to see here is how indeed we can utilize PowerPoint to add creative dimensions or design dimensions to our myriad of projects. And this one that we had previously made, this is a background placeholder that we use, and we also use it for advertisement. What you see here is we have made sure that the dimensions are what's called one-to-one. One-to-one dimensions are square dimensions, basically. One-to-one speaks to the ratio. And so if this was 1 inch on the X axis, X being the horizontal axis, then the Y axis would be, which is the vertical, would be 1 as well. So 1 inch to 1 inch. All right. Length is the same as the width, 1-to-1. Once we've set up those dimensions, and we've done that in design, I'm just going to review that real quick. We've gone to Design tab, and in the Design tab on the far right in 2016, you'll see slide size, and then we can adjust the size as we want to. It could be, like I said, the dimensions could be 1-to-1. I'm going to go back to the Home tab and remind us that if I click on that element, it's going to show the Picture Tools Format tab. Clicking on that tab will allow me to see the exact dimensions of this particular image by looking in the right-hand corner. And we'll see size and the height. In this instance, it's 7.5 by 7.5. Any images that you need to crop can be found there as well. And what we've done is we've created, remember we said this is like a sandwich. This is like a sandwich. And in being a sandwich, it has dimensions, it has layers, so that if your bottom piece of bread is the first layer, your next piece of layer might be the meat that you place, like say turkey, on that next layer. Then you might place lettuce and tomatoes on the next layer, a little salt and pepper. And before you lay down the bread, you're going to smear the bread with mayonnaise, for instance, or mustard. That's another layer. And then you're going to take the bread and place it on top of it. And so that's a layered image. If you can think of that sitting on your table, now just take that sandwich and turn it toward you like you're about to eat it. And that's what you're looking at essentially when you're looking at a design. That's the way Adobe Photoshop tends to think about it and communicates, layers, so that when you think about it, you'll understand that, layers. So if we look at this image, we'll see that it has layers as well. And the layers that are there start with, in the background, there being a picture. And then on top of that picture, there's actually a layer of coloring. So I could have colorized the picture so that it was kind of monotone, but I wanted it to maintain its color. So instead I made another layer of goldish yellow. And what I did is I made it transparent, that particular layer, so that the other image can show through and still maintain its color. The next layer then would be the logo, EB, which was also made here in PowerPoint, by the way. And then on top of that layer, with its effects, because there's effects there, you'll see it moves from gold into a kind of silvery white. Then the next layer would be Be Creative Academy with ebcreativemedia.com, no more excuses. We indicated the importance last week of utilizing text boxes as opposed to having the mindset like in Microsoft Word, you might take just begin typing, but you cannot independently modify those elements in the same way you can if you utilize text boxes. Text boxes will allow you to maintain that layer mindset as well. That layer mindset, important, so that you can move certain elements around. You can group them all together if you like after you finish. But in terms of relocating, sizing, and things like that, it'll make it so much easier if you utilize the text boxes. And so as we go here, you'll see this one is I've already brought everything together, grouped everything together. There's several ways in which you can group something. After we created this particular background, we utilized it itself as a background, as you see here. That's the background for this particular slide, as it were. And just to go back into that layering mindset, you can see that we made this particular item the same way. You get a sense. Now, if you look at the depth, we used shadow features that are also found in format. If you look at the last training, you'll see how we utilize shadows, and that added more dimension. We highlighted using gradation features, which we also touched on last week. And this is another element. So after we created that, we then made it essentially a JPEG or PNG file so that we could move it around as an independent object on this particular slide. And then you have the various text here. Font selection being very important, how you want it to be read, legible, what have you. And so these elements, the way we've set that up, we did this because we wanted to animate each of these particular areas, from the image to the text. Another thing that you can utilize, and someone might say, what does that have to do with design? Depends on what your use is going to be. So we always say, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. And so the animation features, which we're going to show you in a moment, will allow all of that to come together. I'm going to show you that. And so we're varying between, as we created a promo here, these various pieces. So we now go to, so you saw the first one mentioned telepresence. This one then goes into design dimensions, which is what we're doing today. And then back to Be Creative Academy. Again, beginning with the end in mind. The end in mind for us was to create a promo and to promote various courses that we already have in place while promoting Be Creative Academy. This is digital audio, such that when you put it all together, I can go to design, not design, I can go to slideshow, because if you're thinking PowerPoint, it's a slideshow. But I want you to keep in mind that the mindset is not to think of the mindset of the creators of PowerPoint. It's to always think, how can you use this as a tool to go where you want to go? If we were presenting this in a live presentation format, we could utilize this particular software, or we could already put it into loop and let it play as a PowerPoint show, or we can actually also create a video utilizing this software by saving it in the video file. All right, so if we play it, we have a sense of how it's going to play, and you can go play from beginning, from current slide, present slide. I choose to normally hit F5. As I hit F5, that's the shortcut to, okay, so you'll see special effects, the shortcut to starting the slideshow. So we use special effects animation. I'm going to show you that today. We've added sound to this one as well.
Emery B Creative Media presents.
Okay, and you see the white spot at the top. It means that I did not have that even, but you see the motion.
Academy. No more excuses. Emery Creative Media presents.
Okay, design dimensions, adding depth to your images. Quick and easy. You see the depth in this background.
No excuses. Emery Media.
Digital audio.
To fruition.
And then in that course, we'd show you how to actually make the soundtrack that you would hear in this particular piece. And then that takes us back into Be Creative Academy, and that's it. And so when we save that, that's what that would essentially look like. I can escape that. And now we're just going to go into how would I have created something like this. And what I'm about to show you is just then duplicated. This particular slide is representative of this slide, also representative of this slide, representative of this slide. What am I saying? I'm saying once you know how to make one of them, you can use one to be a template for the rest, or you can use one to add various dimensions to the rest, if you understand what I'm saying. So let's start right in here. We're going to take this and we're going to open up a new one. Let's go to our power to the point. And this may look a little bit familiar if you're joining us again. We utilize this to do the same thing. Again, having various dimensions. Let's go File, New, and show you that it's not as challenging as you might think it would be if you understand your tools. Last week, we went through the various tabs that will have the elements that you need to utilize. We want to encourage you to do so as well. PowerPoint has some design ideas that they will suggest. I want you to keep in mind that some of them are very great ideas, but in the way that we're using it, you may want to follow the way that I'm showing you so that you can maximize the moment. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to take away their suggestion here to add title, because that's not how we're going to use it. I'm going to close that out. And I want to begin with the end in mind. I know I want to utilize a square again, or you might be wanting to create for something that's going to be used like on Twitter or Instagram as someone who might be holding a phone, for instance. One of the ways that you could do that is to go into Design, Slide, Size. You'll see that currently it's widescreen 16:9. But since we want to turn this around to be those dimensions, remember the ratio for Twitter, the ratio for a cell phone device would typically be 9:16, not 16:9. 16:9 is landscape. 9:16 is actually portrait. So we're going to change it to a portrait slide for all intents and purposes. Hit OK. This doesn't matter because we don't have any images. That's why I said begin with the end in mind. We know what dimensions we want to use, but if you had already created the image, you could maximize it or you could ensure fit by using ensure fit. I'm just going to go ahead and ensure fit so that if there were any dimensions, it wouldn't be lost. Okay, so this is essentially what we're working with. And now we can see this full background. I'm going to start by inserting. Remember, layer one. Layer one for me is going to be a picture, and usually is a picture. You don't always have to put the image in right away or start with one particular layer unless you envision how you want to start, because you can move the layers around as you place them in as well. Insert picture. I'm going back to the original picture because now I have a clearer sense of how I'm going to use it. I have the road here, and I'm going to repeat what we did there with some exceptions. Okay. I want that road, as it were, to be the center of this page. As I make it the center of this page, then, I'm going to need to crop it accordingly. So I'm going to Format tab, Crop, and I'm going to then bring this in so that this will be the center of this page. I want it to kind of be even with that side. So I'll do that, click outside of that area, and then I can open that up. So now that'll be center. Centered. I also want to use the artistic effect of blur. So I'm going to go into artistic effects under the tab format. And then I'm going to blur that image. I think you see where I'm going already. I want it more blurred. We already know that 50 was what we had previously set. And I hope that you'll appreciate that we're going step by step so that you get an idea of how to do it on PowerPoint, but the creative process, it's not always going to be fluid. Sometimes you're going to need to go through several steps. So we know that we had left the text there in the background. I can right click. Remember I said you can move around the layers. I'm going to right click and select Send to Back. Now the picture or the text that was behind that image is now in the front. And now that it's centered, or closer to being centered, I can place my text accordingly, moving forward. So now we've got the background picture. We've created a 9:9 to 16 ratio because we might want to use this on a cell phone as a cell phone image. This is the essential message we're communicating, moving forward. And I'm just going to then reinsert my logo, which, as I mentioned to you before, I've also created here in PowerPoint. We're going to go to Pictures. Again, communicating the importance of naming conventions so that you'll know where to find what you're looking for when you need it. If there's something that you've ever created and you need to utilize elements, again, you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. So here we have, now just look at the mindset that I'm thinking of. We're moving forward, and right in the crux of the journey is EB Creative Media. Depending on how you're marketing, maybe you're making up something for your church or your business ministry, you'll be able to then incorporate these types of elements. Now that you get a sense of where I'm going here, moving forward, EB, I want you to know that this is what's already come to mind. Insert, text box. I'm repeating these elements on purpose. '20, 21. I know you guessed it. And utilizing the increased font size, which you can press several times or just hold. I'm centering it. I still want to use the Bebas font, so I'm clicking there, grabbing Bebas, and I'm going to increase this font to make it pretty large. Control-Z. Take this image where I want it to be, which is ultimately there. I'm then going to utilize a white color. And that'll make sense in a moment. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and maybe even overlap. So here goes your design dimensions. Background, you purposely want to incorporate overlap. Overlap is going to help others to see that the layers aspect of what the three-dimensional quality of what you're creating. I'm going to take this image since I want it above 2021. I'm going to right click and I'm going to bring to front. Remember I said you can move the layers around. All right. So here's what I want to do. Again, going back into three-dimensional. I want to go into this text Remember, I left the format feature open, but if I didn't leave the format feature open, I'm going to close that so you can see again. Right click on the line of the box, scroll down to format shape, because I'm going to change the opacity of this particular font. I'm going to go to text options, and then you'll see here under color transparency. And I'm going to 2021 is not here yet. So I want to kind of give a sense that it's right among us. You'll still be able to see the background, but you'll see a sense of 2021 showing up. My idea is to drive forth EB Creative Media being a part of your future. All right. And so for all intents and purposes, we're done here. What are some other things that I can begin to do? I can add other features. I can add other elements within this particular image, but we want to keep it simple, Saints. Just want to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. Now, we have this image. Remember, we have layers. There's your foundation. We added on top of it another layer, then another layer, or another layer, and then the final layer. And in doing so, we can then put there's several things we can do with this. Remember, we've got a couple of different versions. I'm not convinced that we need to keep this, so I can delete that former version that we had. And now we've got this. I'm going to duplicate it because I'm about to do a couple of things here. I want to share this with you. Once you've created this, you can group everything, right? And you can group everything by taking your cursor and going from one corner to the next corner. That's one way to group everything. Or grab everything. You group it by right-clicking and clicking group. Now that's grouped in PowerPoint. That's one way to do that. I'm going to Control Z so that we undo that. I'm going to click out of here. Another way to select everything is to click outside of the area of content and click Control A. That selects everything as well. So here's another way to group it, but this is more of a permanent grouping. You copy, right? We're going to go into this area here on the left, and we're going to right-click to create a new slide. I'm going to bring that new slide second here. And now in the new slide area, if I right-click, you'll see paste. See, most of you know to just go Control V and that paste, but it'll paste as those several different elements. But you also have the option of pasting as a picture. If you paste as a picture, all of these elements are one, and that's like a permanent image. What I like to do is to then crop it so that in its final use, it has no space in the areas that you just saw. Because that's what that essentially translates to, is space on the left, the right. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I'm then going to use it outside of PowerPoint, I want to make sure that if I import it into an article, which I can do, that it's not going to have that extra space all around it. There's a little bit of extra space here at the top. Now I can get rid of that extra space too by clicking crop. Remember, I said top right corner of your formatting. And I'm going to bring that in. And PowerPoint, sometimes it takes off too much. What I found is that if you enlarge the image, and then scroll up to the top of it to crop. Let me get to the top there. If you enlarge the image and then crop, it'll allow you to get a more effective, see, without going too deep into your image. You can preserve some of your image by doing it that way. Then I'm going to click outside of that. And once I click outside of that, then the crop is complete. I'm having a little bit of memory issues. It's taking time because I've got so much going on as we are doing this class live. Questions, comments? Hoping that you're understanding what you're seeing there. Then I can right-click on that and save as a picture. I can save it as a JPEG. I can save it as a PNG file. And then I'm also going to close with showing us how we can make this a movie file. I got a little bit of a freeze going on here. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to take that second image as I bring it down just a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that it's flush with the top. Okay. Now, if I right-clicked on it and save, go down, I can scroll down to save as a picture. And it's going to specifically ask me what type of picture, because already in this software, it's a picture. I'm going to go into Be Creative Academy is what I was going for. Naming conventions, as I was saying, is very important. Going into that folder, we're in Design Dimensions, and we're going to call this, you guessed it, EB Moving Forward. EB underscore. I tend to use underscores because if you don't use it in your naming conventions, Microsoft will tend to, I should say PC tends to replace it with percentage points. It can be a little bit confusing. And you can mention your titles, when it was created, how it was created, and the like. Okay, we're going to save that as a PNG file. So we have that as a completed file that we can incorporate. We can now use this in social media. For instance, we already know that these are the dimensions for, say, an Instagram, even Facebook. If you were utilizing stories, this could be great for stories as well. But this image number 2 is just the image. I cannot change that anymore in its current format. Only thing I can do is add things to this particular image. I can add effects to this image and the like. But my source image is number 1 because it has the image I've imported. It has an active version of this particular year, which I can use in years to come if I want. I only need to change that particular number. Moving forward, I can change that language to something else. Driving ahead or something like that. I can even change this particular image as well if I wanted to. So remember I said there's a movie version. We can make this a video. How about we make this video? A video, when you think about it, is just moving images. If you had the same picture and you wanted to show it clear and then go into a blur, just to give you an idea, that's part of it. I'm going to take my static image, which cannot change, and place it down as my last. This here was just a replica of the first image, and this is my main source image in terms of the left side, what I'm showing you. We're going to now add motion. We go into animation. With animation, I think about again, beginning with the end in mind. What is it that you want to communicate? First thing I want to see happen is I want to see moving forward, move forward. So let's go utilize this feature called float in. It's going to show it to us. All right, so that's going to be there. Then we're going to have 2021. Now there might be a bunch of different ways that you may want to bring that in. Wipe looks like this. That's kind of fast for me. Shape, I like that. That's already in line with the speed that I'm thinking. So I'm going to leave that. That's number 2. And then I'm going to come in with this shape. So that's another way, but I think I prefer a zoom. Now zooms are pretty fast. So what you got to do is slow that down. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We're going to start with 1. 1. If it were a presentation, you would do it on click, but we're not using this as a presentation. We want it to be automatic after the previous image shows. So it's going to be 1 second duration after the image shows. We're going to number 2. We don't want to do on click. Again, if it was a presentation and I'm clicking through, I would utilize something like that for sermons or presentations, where I want to advance not just to the next image, but the next portion of that image on that slide to move after the previous image. And then we're going to conclude with this one after the previous image. Now, remember I said it's fast, too fast for me. So I want it to be, rather than half a second, I think I want it to open up after 2.5 seconds. I can see what that looks like by clicking. What am I going to be clicking? Where am I? Okay, so sometimes it'll be a little bit tricky. Let's look at my animation pane. And when I look at the animation pane, I'm going to close the format picture because I'm not going to format the picture anymore. I can then click play from the third image. See, that comes in a little bit slower. So I like that. If I played from the first one, this is essentially what I'm looking for. Play from. Moving forward, 2021, AB Creative Media. My only thing is I do want this a little bit bigger. And I do want some of that road to show. So you just move it. Try that again. Play all. Moving forward. 2021. EB Creative Media. Now, the same type of image I can replace. Maybe you have clients, customers that you work with. You can change the background image. You can use this as your template, change the background image, change the logo or create a logo for your various clients, change the message depending on what they want to say, and just reuse this. This becomes not just your template for creating the actual image. This can become your template for creating the movie itself. Now, if I then want to take this to the next level, how is this going to present when people see it? I could take the smaller one and still keep it. I can make that last one larger. Again, it shows movement. So I'm going to bring this slide to the top. Now, if I were to play it all, utilizing all three, or maybe just utilizing two, I would then look at it from the slideshow perspective. And essentially, this is what it's going to look like from the current slide. And then goes into this next one. I realize that I really don't need that third one. I'm going to escape out of this. And I also realize that I've got a little bit of white edge on one of the sides of these. F5. Okay. And you can see that off against the black background. So I can go into this first one. Move it out a little bit. So I pray that the lack of questions indicates that I'm such a great teacher that everybody's understanding there are no questions, what have you, and that this is an out of this world experience for many. All right. Now, there's something else I want to add here. Since we are interested in using both of these images, I want there to be a transition. So I'm going to go to transitions, and I'm looking then for one of these transitions. You might see them in the presentation, but it becomes a special effect in your video. Some people utilize something like fracture. There's no fracture. We've had enough tragedy. We've had enough horror for a year. Moving forward by faith. So I'm looking for the zoom feature. That looks okay. It's pretty fast again. I like the fly through as well. Window is another great option. I think I'm going to utilize the fly through. Again, it's a little bit fast for me, so I'm going to go to duration, and I'm going to increase it to about 2.5 seconds. I'm going to uncheck on mouse click because I don't want it to wait. Remember, we're creating the video. And because this is my live version, my source file, I'm not going to utilize this in the particular image, in this particular video. So when I save it, file, and I recommend you save it before you go so deep as I did with this one. Remember naming conventions. This is part of the Be Creative Academy. initiative, design dimensions. We're going to call this one same as that particular image file, but we're going to get rid of the ping. Okay, that's my main file. This is my source file. It has the images, it has the fonts. All right. And now I'm also then going to get rid of this one. Bear with me 1 second. Is everything okay?
Yep, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in class right now.
You're what?
I'm in my class right now.
Oh, sorry, Daddy.
That's okay. Is everything all right?
Mm-hmm. I just want to see how you doing. And thank you again for dropping me off.
You're welcome, daughter.
Is your coffee good?
Yes, fantastic. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. I'm getting my tea and my bagel now.
All right.
I'm on break.
Enjoy. I'll talk to you soon. What time do you get off?
I get off at 3:45, but I'm not coming straight home.
What do you, okay. Give me a text. Let me know what you're doing.
All right. Bye, Daddy.
Bye-bye. Thank you for your patience. Just need to make sure that my loved one is okay. Now what we're going to do is, we already know how this is going to look. We're going to File, Save As. In our design dimensions, no. Yes, in our design dimensions folder. Save as. Now look here, save as type. In the design dimensions folder, what we're going to go into is we're going to click the ellipsis there and scroll down to MP4 video. Yes, we could have done it as a show. Windows media file should be another option here. Yep, as a video there. You can even save it as a GIF, but what we're going to do is MP4 video. Click save. And then you'll actually see the process of it saving the video. It takes a little bit longer than a regular file to save an MP4, as it has to process each of those images. The actual PowerPoint software, it'll let you know that's creating the video, and the process takes a while. I want to take this moment, space, and to share with you. We have several other courses that we engage. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. Usually depends upon the engagement, because while we have a target and a focus of the things that we want to share, it might be something specific that you want to do. And we want to be deliberate in sharing with you how to do what you need to do. We also have an intensive, we have a network. The Be Creative Academy can be engaged by subscription, where you'll be able to tap into any particular class that we've put together for a certain subscription every month. It depends on what you want to do. We have various subscriptions. We have intensives if you need someone to come alongside you, myself, or any one of the members of my team, to show you how to do what you need to do. We can do that. Maybe there's a whole marketing initiative. Take a picture just here. Be something that's in multiple dimensions. You can add, it has flyers, that has videos that are anything like that, formats. And so in the palm of most of our, now, if you don't, you can purchase it, and it's not as expensive as purchasing Adobe Creative Suite. And as you may have seen, there's several things that we've already shown over the past 2 weeks that you can do in this software that it would take a few more steps to utilize in Adobe Photoshop. Some people who are designers have used Photoshop for years. I've used it for years as well. But again, my intention is to take excuses out of the conversation. No more excuses. We have everything that we need to do all that God has called us to do for such a time as this. He knows the plans that he has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, to give us a future and a hope. We are living in times where many opportunities are dissolving right before us. We need to begin to find out what tools are available for us to make opportunities for ourselves in this day and time. Put the seed in the ground, water it, and God's word says that he brings the increase. So let's put our trust in God and God alone. We see that this video has already been generated. So we're going to go to the folder, Design Dimensions folder. And we'll see here then that it's right there. So we're going to double click on it just to see what it would play as if I have the resources to be able to play the video. You probably won't see the video because I've shared this as a PowerPoint file. So let me make a quick few adjustments here. Want to also add that in PowerPoint, you can also add sound. You can also narrate. You can also copy the screen and do an instructional video as I'm doing, but pre-recorded. Okay. And we have a video that we've created instructional for that as well. So let me just pause for a quick second. Okay, let's close a few things here. We're going to close this application. We're not going to save, and the reason we're not going to save is because I had removed the source file from that, and I don't want to delete it. So I had saved where I wanted to save. I need to save there. Okay, so we're going back into our StreamYard software, which, by the way, we are using StreamYard today. And in using StreamYard, we want to encourage you to utilize them as well. After this, we're going to place a shortcut link so that you'll be able to come to get your own subscription to this software with a discount. I'm going to share the screen. And which application are we going to share? Application window. Let's go to the movie. And we're going to share that. So you'll be able to see what it looks like. Now, again, sometimes things are a matter of trial and error. So there are some things that may need to be tweaked. But that's the purpose of us playing it over and over again in PowerPoint, so we get a sense of what it should look like when we play it in the video file. Okay, here it goes. Moving forward. Next portion. There we go, moving forward. 2021. All right. And that's the entire image there. If I wanted to add sound, if I wanted to create this for our church, for instance, I would probably change that bottom portion to say moving forward in the first clip. And in the second clip, I would change that to by faith with the image of our ministry logo, 2021. That's just another idea. Gonna play that again. So that we can see how that came out again. Remember, we did that transition that brings it here. One thing I would have done differently, I would have brought in another transition going into that and then closing there. And so we have, again, shown you how to create the actual flyer itself, marketing collateral, digital marketing collateral with layers. And in addition to those layers, we've used certain effects. We work with opacity today. We change the transparency of the particular document. And now when we press play, we've added motion to it in terms of the transition, as well as animation, which is about to show here. All right. Consider what's in your hands. God asked Moses the same question, what's in your hands? And he liberated a nation by God's grace. So what's your excuse? There are no excuses. Glory to the Lamb. Emery Barber, ebcreativemedia.com, creating media solutions from vision to fruition. Till the next time, may the Lord our God bless you real good. Remember, be creative. God bless you.
He said, let there be light, trees, let there be ocean, seas, let there be